Alright, OBS is started. OBS is connected. YouTube says it's receiving. The audience will see it in a moment. So as soon as it says, there we go, it says we are live. Excellent! Hello and welcome to Gilmore's Glorious Gossip, a show dedicated to Critical Role over on the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel. Welcome to everybody joining us live. And don't worry if you can't stay, we will be posting this on Monday as we always do. We do apologize for the three consecutive weeks rather, without an episode. Life just sort of exploded on all of us. But many, many eternal thanks to Akuma Mika at EmmaFrost91 for our logo. This week we have 7 more amazing pieces of art. The current art that you're seeing comes to us from Caio Santos at Black Salander, BlackSalandер, over on Twitter. And later you'll be seeing pieces by Kit at WonderCon, at Iggles Piggles. I love that Twitter name. I can't get enough of that one. Iggles Pickles!
Pickles, pickles.
Yes. Piece by May Leonard at Gamerwa Monocle. Piece by M at E Truffery. That's lowercase e, capital Truffery. A piece by Snicket at Persnicketies. And finally, a piece by Emily at Creative Collins. Creative, of course, spelled how you spell creative. Collinz. If you'd like your art featured here, please let any of the show's hosts know, either using our official Gilmore's Glorious Gossip at gmail.com, or our official at Gilmore_gossip on Twitter, or, giving you a third option, you can check out our new Tumblr, thanks to Jessica, who has recently joined the team.
Hello.
It is gilmore-gossip.tumblr.com. Or you can contact us directly via our individual Twitters. If you do so, we'll do our best to get it on the show. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you can catch us each and every week. I'm Akiva, found on Twitter at AkivaDavid, AKIVADAPHYDD. And joining me today are my excellent friends. Please go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi guys, I'm Kat, also known as Castiel Games on Twitter, CASSTI3L Games. And yeah.
Hi everyone. I'm Jess, otherwise known as at Jessie LR Leaf on Twitter, or you can find me at my Tumblr at CritRollSketch. And I also I did make the Tumblr blog, and I'm there pretty frequently for Gilmore's Gossip.
Thank you much for that. But that will go ahead and bring us into the pre-show announcements. And because we are doing 3 episodes today, we are going to be taking things a little bit quickly, just to make sure we try and get in as much as we can. So in the announcements this week, the Why I Love Critical Role fan submissions has been turned into a video, and has been released. And I'm putting all of that in the description below now, which I forgot to do before the show, so I apologize for that. Come on. Here we go. Sorry, my computer's going a little slow at the moment.
That's okay.
Okay, there we go. All the links are now in. And there is currently a survey being done by Geek and Sundry, specifically focusing on Critical Role, and it does touch on a little bit of what you want to see from Geek and Sundry and merchandise that you guys would be interested in purchasing and such. The link to that is, of course, down in the description below, and that will be going until the 18th. Mantle of the Tempest. I didn't put this particular note in, and I don't recall off the top of my head what it's referring to.
I think it is the stats for the Mantle of the Tempest.
Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
it's just
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, the Mantle of the Tempest that Keyleth is wearing, the stats for that have been put out, and there's the link for that. One of the things that I really love about the Critters community is the things that we do to celebrate our shared joy that is Critical Role. This one is coming to us by Fan Friction Films, a Critical Role fanfic / music video. Definitely worth the watch. It is very cool.
I think I've seen it 10 times now. I can't get over it.
And last but not least, the WonderCon, my Draconish is showing, the WonderCon panel for Talks Machina is also up on YouTube. So if you haven't seen that, go ahead and check it out. This is the part of the show that we normally have comments from the last episode of Gilmore's Glorious Gossip, but the last two videos have had no comments whatsoever.
That's
Crazy. I take that
no
back.
one's talking.
Last episode did get one comment, and it was simply a, hey, nice video.
We'll take it.
Yep. So, we're just going to go ahead and dive into the Talks Machina moments. I have to admit, with the way life has been going, I haven't really been paying attention to Talks Machina much. So if you guys want to go ahead and take over.
Yeah,
Okay.
are we just pulling out points? Like a couple of points each, or are we
Yeah,
I mean, I
'cause-
go
guess
through all of it?
I've written paragraphs, so if you want to...
Yeah, I would say just grab a couple of points because we do have a lot to cover.
Yeah. Oh, you can go first, Jess.
Okay. For the Talks Machina that discussed episode 90, I think, if I'm doing this correctly, Sam was asked how much he enjoyed playing a character without charisma, without the charisma that Scanlan had, and Sam said that he enjoyed playing the weaknesses and flaws that are Tyrion. I'm not going to talk about Vax and the Raven Queen because everybody knows a lot about that.
Yeah, he still has the love-hate relationship going on.
Yeah, and he's mostly just looking forward to a vacation with Keyleth, and he doesn't really want to do anything with the Raven Queen just yet. There were a couple of story beats noted about Sam knowing that the egg probably wasn't magical. He said that Tyrion wasn't just going to sit on it and not cast Identify on the object or detect magic. So he knew that upon giving it away that it wasn't a magical item, but he didn't want to tell Grog. Sorry. Sam also mentioned that he was forced to show all of his cards for Terry early on Sam confirmed that he had indeed been forced to give more information that he had expected for Tyrion. And most of his backstory was created on the fly. The information about Terry's father being a mob boss was totally improvised.
Which, it still really fits and is a great plot point that Matt can pick up later. Or sooner, as Matt wills.
Yeah. Sam also reflected on bringing a new character into a pre-existing party. He said his biggest concern for getting Terry to remain was getting Terry to remain with Vox Machina, as he knew the team did not like Terry at all. But he's happy that now that Terry is beginning to find his way with the party, he can explore the character more. And when asked if one member of Vox Machina was an evil boss, who would they be most scared of? Sam said Gern Blanston, and Liam said Keyleth.
I would have to agree with Liam on this one.
I'm scared of Keyleth. Yeah,
Yeah.
that girl is, oh my god. I think she could pretty much take all of BM on at this point.
Now with shape change, yeah.
Druids in 5th
Very
edition are scary.
Yeah, they kind of, in the beginning, you kind of don't really know what to do with a druid because there's just so bits of everything. But once you start getting into the later levels, you're like, oh, okay, all right, never mind. Like they really find their niche the higher the level. You just got to stick with them. I oh, there's a part 2.
Yes.
There's the second.
Okay. Did you want to keep going, Jess? Or?
Sure. This one's a
Okay.
bit shorter. This one was more of a creative centered because this was the episode where Fan Friction Films actually came and talked with everybody. They came dressed in full costume and answered questions about cosplaying. When Matt was asked about where he pulled inspiration for the city of Dis, he said that since it was already pre-existing, he had tons of references to use and liked the idea of just plopping Vox Machina in the middle of this hellish landscape and describing based off of where they were instead of like describing it at a distance as most campaigns would normally see it as.
Yeah, this is a very established place.
Yes.
Which, for once, Matt can't be blamed for the crazy naming.
True.
He had to go with the name he was given. So it's not his problem that it's the city of Dis. But yeah, I can see the references to the city of Brass as well, like the comparisons. But they definitely are dealing with well, if they've already left, then they've dealt with it. But they're definitely in a place that's so different, despite the possible similarities. They are very different places.
Speaking of which, yeah,
Matt's description was amazing.
Yes, it was. And for Matt to be able to describe Dis the way he did, like, I've been playing for 20 years. And I've had characters go to Dis on multiple occasions. But when Matt was describing it, it felt like the first time all over again.
Yeah. He really brings a place to life, which is definitely a skill every DM I think would love to take on and get better at. Scott Graham in chat said, I'd say Pike after the last battle royale would be the scariest. I think Pike is constantly underrated. She's a cleric. That's pretty much all you have to say.
Yeah, clerics can be pretty scary in their own right.
Yeah.
But there are certain abilities that a druid, if used properly, will just dominate everything.
At this point, yes.
I was in a 5th edition game, and we had our druid as the face tank.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
by that I mean not only were they the first person into battle, they were taking the hits to their face.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's definitely a way that you can build them. You can build them so many different ways. And I think that's what confuses people initially with druids, because they're like, oh my gosh, there's so many different directions. And it's not very clear. A lot of classes you take on, and it's like, all right, if you want to be a tank, then you be this. And if you want to be a DPS, then you be this. And if you want to heal, then you be this.
Yep.
With a druid, you can choose either circle, but it's how you build and play that character, that druid, is determines what role that they can take on. And
And
I've
even
played a
then,
druid. I've played a druid tank. I've seen druids dish out crazy amounts of damage. You can play them any which way. You can play them as healers.
yeah. I mean, even if you do decide, hey, I'm going to play this as a tank, druids are still versatile enough
Yeah.
to fall back into a healer role.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. They're awesome.
so one or two more points.
Yeah. You were also talking about which city was how they were both similar, City of Brass and City of Dis. Somebody asked which one was more dangerous, and Matt responded that the City of Brass will get you killed. The City of Dis will doom your soul for eternity.
Yeah.
And he also described the City of Dis as basically Los Angeles, which is actually pretty true.
Ah! Well,
Having
someone
lived around there.
that's awful. Now I never want to go there. That sounds terrible. Yeah, the city of Dis will pretty much make you wish that someone would kill you. Um, I think that's the difference. Is City of Brass, yeah, you're probably gonna die. Someone's probably gonna either sell you into slavery or uh, end up, killing you. Uh, the City of Dis will make you wish that someone would just put you out of your misery.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing about in the City of Brass, yeah, you can get put into slavery and eventually kill you, but you have death as an out. In the City of
Yeah,
Dis,
there is no out.
not only is there no out, but even if, let's say, your soul gets weakened to the point where they're using your soul as currency,
Yes.
you're still suffering that entire time.
Yep. Yeah, it's screwed up. It's really screwed up. Uh, yes.
Welcome to the lawful evil hell.
Um,
Scott Graham in the chat asks, so if this is LA, does that make Brass Chicago? Yes.
yeah.
I have lived near Chicago. Yeah.
Gosh, you guys have awful cities over there. I think I might stay down here with my spiders and my snakes.
At least you understand that if the spiders, snakes, and kangaroos kill you, it's not out of maliciousness.
Right? I don't hold that against them.
So, but there is one point in the notes or for the Talks Machina notes that I did not know, and now that I have the game, I have to go looking for it.
Oh yeah.
Apparently, there's an Easter egg in Mass Effect Andromeda. One of the aliens is named after Grog.
That's awesome.
So if any of you guys in the chat have seen this, please let me know where it is so I can keep an eye out for it.
Yes. So for me, I think the only point, and this is really strange because there was so much amazing things that were spoken about in the last couple of weeks of Talks Machina, but one thing that I did want to point out, because I remember I discussed this in a previous podcast, Matt mentioned that his decision to have Pike tell the crew, please do not go down to the Nine Hells without me, was not a DM redirect. It was an in-character decision. And when he said that, I kind of sat back in my chair and went, oh. Because I remember I'm like, oh yeah, that's very typical. It's like, all right, you have something prepped. You realize that this crew may go down a different road. So as a DM, you nudge them and go, hey, you don't want to go that way. You want to go this way. Which is typical. We all do it. Let's not lie. And so I was pretty sure that that was Matt just giving them a nudge. And it's the first time that I ever actually noticed Matt blatantly redirecting the party in a particular direction, because usually he doesn't do that. Usually he's like, do whatever you want. But he's come out and said in one of the previous Talks Marketers that actually he just felt like Pike would have said that.
Either way, it made sense.
It
Because-
did make sense. It's
because-
sad that in the end she still didn't go.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is she coming back next week? Because they said that she would be coming back soon.
It's possible. I don't
Not
know
sure.
how soon is soon, but they're pretty close to their break, and I'm sorry if you guys can hear my phone ringing.
That's
No,
okay.
it's really low.
So, all right.
Yes, he corrected me on that, and also in the WonderCon one, Grog said that in the next campaign he's going to be a pigeon. So I'd like to hold him to that.
Pigeon?
He wants to play a pigeon.
I would
'Cause
love.
everyone.
Go ahead.
Everyone on the panel was like, "Oh, next campaign you have to play a character that actually has the ability to direct. Like a general or someone with the ability to kind of give us some direction. Because obviously Travis is very good at that, and he's got a good head on his shoulders, and he has a good ability to plan attacks and things like that." And you can see that he kind of just sits back because he can't really contribute because of Grog's. Well, he could, but I think it's also hard that he doesn't choose to. But
Yeah.
Grog's intelligence is so low. And so everyone at the table was like, oh, next campaign you have to play something that can actually give us direction. And he's like, nope, I'm coming back as a pigeon.
I would love to see Travis play a pigeon-based Aarakocra.
Yes! Yes.
So that would
As
be
long as
awesome.
we get those pigeon sounds, I'll be happy. Yeah.
But that's going to go ahead and bring us into episode 91, our first of 3. So episode 91 started with the group in Veshra, just after Keyleth's little speech and everything from episode 90. Keyleth has a small little talk with her dad, Corin, about her duties as the voice of the Tempest, and asking if she can leave, continue doing druid stuff out in the world. Which, of course, Corin says, well, yeah, one of your duties includes helping us integrate with the outside world, because it's getting harder and harder for the druids to stay hidden. But throughout the conversation, Keyleth pointed out that she feels her parents didn't properly prepare her for the outside world. To which Corin reveals that for at least the first few days, few weeks, he had scouts following her and presumably some of the party that they may have met up with. So shortly after that, they start planning on going to the Nine Hells and how they're going to get to Dis and everything.
Gotta love their planning.
Oh yeah.
It's so entertaining to watch them just stumble over the same ideas and the same thought processes. I know a lot of people get frustrated by it, but I find it kind of entertaining.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I loved when Grog proposed kidnapping Asmodeus.
Oh god.
Yes! I'm like, oh, please do that. Please think that that's a possible thing to do, because I would have loved them to try.
What's worse, Orcus or Asmodeus?
Asmodeus.
Asmodeus, yeah. Oh yeah.
Orcus is high up there, but Asmodeus is like top of the devil
He's
pile.
crazy too. Yes.
So
Um, I loved the discussions as well about Vex's title and what that held, because I've been interested in that as well. I'm like, well, what is that all going to accomplish? So, they had some really interesting conversations kind of interposed into it all. And I love the concept of the Grey Hunt.
oh
Oh,
yeah.
I've been waiting for Percy to tell them.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, please, can we have that? Like, actually happen. I want to see this. And I understand that it's only her by herself going in, so it's probably not very, I don't know what the other players are going to do while she's hunting this thing down, but I really want to see it.
So do I.
I
Like,
you know I would love to see. Maybe we can send an email or a tweet or whatever to Matt and see if we can convince him to do a one-shot side story type thing with just him and Laura going through the Grey Hunt.
maybe Taliesin too?
Well, of course.
Yeah,
I mean, he has to introduce the whole thing and
that's true.
get it all going. And then,
Yeah.
it would be great for Taliesin because I get the feeling that although it was something that he had put into his backstory somewhere, it was one of those little details that was a day-to-day life type of thing, so it wasn't necessarily something that Matt could bring into the game without a real reason. And
Yes.
Taliesin has now given him that reason.
Yes. Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe it'll be a holiday
Well, it is
episode or something like that, because it's with the what is it?
Wintercrest.
Wintercrest, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so probably it will be a little bit off if they ever actually get to it. Actually, if they time it perfectly, it may be a perfect way to end the campaign. Oh my god, I don't believe I just said that. I kind of got a little bit of a heart skip when I said it, but
Well, I'm thinking,
like they're kind of getting to that point, so that would be an interesting wrap.
yeah, I'm thinking it's about a year or so.
Yeah.
Within the year
Yeah.
they're going, not within 2017, but I mean by this time next year they're going to be wrapping up
Yes.
the
Otherwise
entire Vox Machina
Too long in
arc.
tooth.
Yeah.
It concerns me though, because if it's around the time of Winter's Crest, and if nothing happens with the little orb until then, I get concerned because the plains are thinnest at Winter's Crest. Is Matt gonna do something with the orb then?
That might be like the oh wow.
Speaking as a
Yeah.
green dragon, yes.
Yeah.
Speaking as a DM, it's very possible.
Yeah, that would be a good finale for sure. Um, yes. So
I
what else
always
did
get-
they discuss?
Yeah. I always get concerned every single time they go back to Whitestone. Even after this episode, when they just ended on a plane shift for the most recent episode, I sat there going, "Damn, if it's gone as soon as they get back to Whitestone, that's just going to be a real bummer. If
Yeah.
everything's just gone, they haven't been there in a while. We don't know."
Whitestone's
It
been
is-
sucked into a black hole.
It is interesting. There's a lot of different things Matt can do at this point. He's kind of put them in this limbo suspension, which has pretty much opened up anything as a DM to do with Vox Machina. They could have been shifted into a different plane, like not the one that they necessarily wanted to be, because those prisons usually have a lot of either you cannot plane shift out of them at all, or they usually have some kind of like redirectional magic imposed where, if you try to plane shift to one, it'll plane shift you somewhere else. The possibilities of what he could do at this point to mess with Vox Machina and screw them over are endless. So we'll see if he actually takes that and does that something with that, or if he just goes, "Oh yeah, you're home now."
Well,
Not sure.
um, while we're on the topic, uh, Kevin Hilton, I hope I said that correctly, points out that the orb was already there by the time of last Winter's Crest, primarily because Delilah did it too early.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true.
Yes,
Yeah. So
while that is
yeah.
true, because it was done too early, I don't. If it is a path for Vecna to travel, I don't think Vecna was prepared,
Yes. So it could
and
have taken time. Yeah.
yeah. So, and because it was done too early, and Vecna wasn't prepared on their end, maybe by the time this Winter Crest comes around, they will have been able to
And
prepare
pass.
and force their way through. And
Yeah.
thank you for the correction. That was Kevon Hilton. So thank you. So
Always possible. So they talked about true sight a little bit as being a possible issue. Uh, and there was a bit of discussion on the Reddit forums about that, about how true sight, like some devils and some creatures can have true sight as an ability, but not all. So there was a lot of concern about that. And also about how true sight affects. Oh gosh, my brain is just not working this morning. When
well,
you do transformations over illusions,
yeah.
when you're actually transforming into another creature over just illusionary magic.
Well,
Um,
see, here's the thing. So a true sight will allow you to see through illusions. If
yes,
you do like alter self, you are physically altering yourself. Even though some DMs have it where you have to maintain concentration or you revert back, it is still an alteration to yourself.
Mhm.
Um, and then, of course, Keyleth's new shape change ability. She's actually becoming whatever it is, she's wanting to change into. So for those two, you
yes,
wouldn't be able to see through it. You'd only be able to
yeah,
see that there's magic around this individual at best.
yes, yes.
So,
Yeah, so I think Matt made a good call in relation to that. Despite it being a bit grey in the rules, like the actual rules in the book, I think that Matt made the right call there.
yes. Um, but they continue their conversation about Dis and such, on how devils view mortals in the Dis, or in the city of Dis rather. And Percy, comes back with, well, I've been doing research and such. According to my research, consuming a mortal is nothing. The goal and pleasure of the devils comes from twisting and corrupting those souls. So the danger is more a slow burn danger than it is, oh, we're going to show up and immediately get attacked by the city.
Oh yeah, yeah, they like to take their time.
Um, Now, something else that we didn't mention, Sam was not there for episode 91.
Yeah.
Um, but the topic of contracts and gifts and such within the city of Dis did come up. And Matt put on a very on the nose, very hilarious improvisation of Tyrion talking about the contracts and such.
I found his version of Tyrion to be very interesting.
Yes, much more
um,
likable than Sam's.
Strangely, yes. Strangely, yes. But yeah, it must be so difficult for Matt to have to be like that fill in every now and then for these characters, especially the ones that aren't so well established as yet. I have noticed in the last couple of episodes that Sam's Tarian seems more and more like Scanlan as each
Yeah.
episode progresses. Are you guys noticing that? Thank you. I'm
Yes.
so glad I'm not the only one. I was watching the last episode and I'm like, I'm starting to just see Scanlan coming out now. I don't know where Tarian has gone. So it'll be interesting to see how that character continues to progress.
I can still see the difference, but based on the events of this last episode, I will not be surprised if Tyrion blows up on Vox Machina and they get Scanlan 2.0 all
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah, I'm seeing it happen before my eyes.
Well, I think part of the problem, I shouldn't say problem because it's not really a problem, but I can see how others would call it a problem. One of the issues arising from one player having a second character in the same campaign is that first character develops a sort of rapport, and in so doing, so does the player. So the player interacts with the other players in a certain way that is consistent with that first character. So when they switch characters, it's very hard not to have at least some of the personality traits continue on.
Like fall back to.
Yeah. Because that's more, two characters played by the same person rather than two different actual people.
Well, Felice in chat has a theory. She reckons Tarian is Scanlan in disguise. The big reveal is coming.
That would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
Scanlan
don't
had
think
prismatic
so,
spray this whole time.
Yeah.
That's another thing in WonderCon that Scanlan mentioned as well.
That Sam mentioned?
Sam and
Oh, Sam mentioned. Oh gosh, Talia would have kicked my butt. That Sam mentioned as well, because he was asked where he felt Scanlan was at this very moment, and he said probably in a gutter somewhere, like completely blitzed, or in a casino having just killed a couple of people, being reined in cash. I don't know if he was being serious in that response, but that is not the direction that I was hoping Scanlan would be going in. So I'm a little concerned.
But at the same time, I could see either one of those.
I could
happening.
too, but
Yeah.
I thought he was off with his daughter, trying to get a relationship and trying to fix himself up. And apparently, in Sam's mind, in Sam's concept of this character is not going on a road of redemption, more like a road of further.
well,
Yeah, but see, here's the issue. It's Scanlan, and it's Kaylee. The blitzed out in the gutter or at a casino being reined in cash, that's their lifestyle. That is the Dr. Dranzel's bardic troupe right there.
So my fantasy images of them having picnics and catching up on father-daughter moments is probably not correct.
no.
Okay.
It's more like catching up on father-daughter moments in the middle of a bar fight.
It's us doing shots and
Sam also did mention that he and Matt were going to sit down and discuss what Scanlan was doing.
yes. I'm very excited that they're still talking about that in the background and keeping that going. Because we're all interested. We'll definitely want to know. Even if he never comes back, I think that'll be something that we'll discuss at the end of the campaign at least. Because we'll want to know.
You know what would be amazing, in my opinion?
What?
Is if... Because Matt has said that the next campaign, after Vox Machina is done, the next campaign is... He plans on it being in Exandria. Just starting on a different continent, in a different town, that sort of thing.
Wildmount, possibly.
I would love to see it where, because gnomes are so long-lived, where it starts out with one of the characters going to see Scanlan to get some tips on adventuring before they head out on their career, and
Yeah.
having
Yes.
hurt and everything that's going on now with Vox Machina has been the stories that Scanlan has been telling this new adventurer.
Oh, it makes me so sad but so happy. Moon Moon in chat says, pretty much your theory, Akiva. He wonders if in the next campaign will taking place in the same world, could Sam's plan of putting Scanlan on the sidelines be his plan of having Scanlan in the next campaign?
Depends on two
There you
things:
go.
how old Scanlan is, and how long after Vox Machina the next campaign picks up.
Yeah, and I think even if it's not that Sam takes on that character, even if it is an opening like that, I mean that would be beautiful. Even if he's like an NPC, perhaps played by Matt, or maybe just an NPC that Sam dual plays for a little bit, just for that intro moment. That
Yep.
would be interesting to see. Yeah.
So, the way I envision it in my head, if this was a book or a movie, Scanlan would be sitting in a rocking chair, smoking a pipe,
Yeah.
and the next campaign would just start with the simple phrase, "And that's the story of Vox Machina.
Oh
Go and
no.
make your own story."
Uh, Kevon says Pike, Scanlan, Keyleth being iconic characters. Yes, they're going to be the ones that will last, probably, if they don't get killed before then. And Felice says, I think it's time for Scanlan to come back. Well,
It would be nice.
we will see.
One can only
But yeah,
hope.
bit of
So,
a tangent there. Sorry, Akiva.
Yeah,
We can
shall we
it's okay.
continue?
Going on,
You know me and my tangents. I'm sorry.
Keyleth does ask about where Rakshasas fall in the caste system within Dis, and it comes up that not all fiends fall in the castes. Rakshasa are out on the fringes, which completely blows away my theory that Hodis. I shouldn't say blows away, puts doubt on my theory that Hodis had gotten some power from a higher level demon in order to come back quicker.
All right.
Yes.
Yes.
But I mean, it's still possible, and maybe that's why Hodis wound up where he wound up, which we'll get into later.
Yep.
So they Percy also talks about wanting Pike with them, because it had been a couple of months since Pike killed Hodis, and Vax says, waiting one more day wouldn't hurt if they want to wait for Pike. And then the players and Matt discuss the possibility of Jaegering Pike like they did earlier in the series. Which I think, honestly, I personally really wish they had waited for Pike. But at the same time, the DM in me, or the DM / viewer in me, is like, thank God they didn't.
Yeah.
A cleric going into the Nine Hells is like a beacon of, yes, try to corrupt us.
Oh, goodness. Most definitely. And clanging down the streets. She's just. There's no stealthing with Pike.
True. So, Keyleth asks about shape changing into a succubus or a tiefling while they're there in order to blend in. They settle on the tiefling, and they're discussing how to approach the situation. And Vax brings up being honest about why they're there, which they've only, in my memory, they've only talked about doing once before.
Yeah, they tend to lie a lot, but
Yeah.
he can't really lie to a devil.
Well, you can,
You
but
can,
it's
but
just
it's hard.
it's very difficult, especially without Scanlan. So,
Yeah.
so they
With
find.
Kiki at the head of the group.
I don't know. Little bit jumping ahead of myself, but she pulled off some impressive deceptions
Yeah.
in
Actually, yeah,
'92.
she did do amazingly.
Yeah.
In a number of times that the old Kiki probably wouldn't have done so well at. So you can
Yeah.
see that character progression, despite a lot of people complaining about, not seeing her actually growing as a leader. I think she put that to bed, to
Yep.
rest. That's right. That's what I wanted to say.
Marisha actually mentioned that in one of the Talks Machina episodes. Like Keyleth is always going to put her foot in her mouth,
Yes.
but she does progress a little bit. She can explore just a little bit, but Keyleth will always have a low charisma stat, and she's going to play that till the end of her days. That's Keyleth.
Yeah, you can be a strong person. You can be a strong woman, a strong man without having all the charisma and ability to, you know, put fancy sounding sentences together and always know what to say.
Even if
And
you
I know,
can, even if you can put fancy sounding sentences together, because I pride myself on my vocabulary in day to day speech, but I feel like I have no charisma whatsoever. So,
yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily make you a like a strong person. And I feel like being a leader is more than just those sorts of aspects. Being a leader is something that I think Kiki has proved over time and time and again. And I think that it's just an indication that people don't see that they're kind of missing
oh yeah.
what counts as a leader. And yeah, that's more on them, I think, than her as a character.
As far as leadership goes, charisma certainly helps, but is not necessary.
As far as game mechanics go, charisma
Yeah,
does help.
yeah, but I mean, look at you know, look at Grog. It,
Yeah.
it's also you know wisdom, intelligence, and charisma really play into the leadership. Grog has virtually no intelligence,
Yeah.
but when he's needed to lead, he is one wise motherfucker. Pardon my language.
He is, yeah. No, he said a sentence, and we probably haven't gotten to it yet. I have a terrible tendency of just talking about things as they come to mind of interest, but he said a sentence of something like, "You don't have to always be looking at the horizon. Sometimes you just have to be looking at where your feet are going,
Oh,
or
yeah,
in front of
yeah.
your own feet." I thought that was the most amazing sentence. It really summed Grog up, and I mean, they said, well, how about that sword? How did that work out for you? And he said, it's worked out for me fine so far, and they had nothing to come back to that. I mean, he's still there, he's still okay. Yes, he makes silly decisions sometimes, but I think that simple concept of you don't have to constantly be worrying and stressing about things that may never even come to pass. Focus more on where you're going now and focus more on where you are now in
Yes.
life, and you'll find things will just be so much better for you. Yeah.
Yes.
He's a very smart guy.
So, um, at that point, they pass out some potions, um, and they get onto the discussion about languages. And the vast majority of the inhabitants of the city of Dis, their primary language is Infernal. To which, of course, Taliesin replies, "I speak Disco, but not Infernal." The puns are just so delicious. But,
I did pop something in chat for you too, Akiva. You can just have a look at that quickly when you have the chance.
okay, I'll do that now then. Um, good. Thank you.
No worries.
I hope it wasn't because of us.
No, one of
Okay.
my players couldn't make it, so yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Yay. Okay. Um, which, speaking about the languages and such, um, Keyless gets the idea to ask about tieflings in the Ashari society. Which, of course, tieflings are a fairly rare race. More common in 5th edition than they were in 4th and 3rd. But they're still pretty rare. And Matt sort of has a little bit of a mercy moment. And there are 2 tieflings within Zephyra. There's one that is a child, which the group is like, yeah, we're not going to talk with the child. We have a bad history with children. And the other one is a gardener.
It's kind of interesting though because this you wouldn't normally see tieflings like in Amon or in couple of other cities throughout Tal'Dorei because I feel like there's more of a heavy prejudice there than Tal'Dorei, but among like a tribe that welcomes all races, it feels like it would be right that they would be there. So I don't really see that being so much of a coincidence as, yeah, it's very, very, very likely that you're going to have a couple of tieflings that tried to seek some kind of refuge. And
I think what surprised me more with that character was that she was a gardener.
Well,
That
that didn't surprise me because you're living in a druid community. You're kind of expected to get in touch with nature, and gardening is
I,
one
j-
way to do that.
I just can't see a tiefling as a gardener. I'm sorry.
Oh, I can.
Oh, it
Then,
just
then
I was just
again,
like I had to readjust my thinking. I'm like, okay.
this is also you're also talking to the guy that sees Asimir as particularly bloodthirsty. So,
There you go.
yeah. Um, but before they get a few words from the gardener in Infernal. Um,
Poor
one of
Matt.
Yeah, poor Matt. But so not only did he come up with several almost Klingon sounding phrases.
Yes, that's the first thing I thought.
Yeah, it was almost blatant.
Yes.
but then Liam made a joke.
Ermagerd.
Oh my god! And that became one of the words.
He started saying it in the most recent episode. As soon as the Bone Devil came out, he just started screaming "Ermagerd, Ermagerd, Ermagerd, Ermagerd," and it's
So
just funny to know what that translates into.
Yeah.
yeah, I think Matt got to the point of, you know what? I've had enough. Guess what? That's it now. And he got the reactions I think he wanted because no one wanted to have to say that every single time they wanted to say that word.
Yep. I
But
don't
in
remember
one of,
what that
in one,
translated to.
oh no,
I don't remember.
Jess has put the note there. No, it was for no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very simple word, but it's the most complex. But I think just probably note from one of the past Tux Machinas, Matt actually said that he probably didn't need to be making up those words. And that was the first thing I thought too, was like, Matt, you don't have to sit here and make up words, dude. You can just roll. But he just kind of started. Like he said one word and then he's like, great, now I have to do this now because I've said one, so I'm locked in now and have to do the rest. But he said in Tux Machina he realized afterwards that he probably didn't need to sit there and come up with all these different words.
Yeah, but
Things
by
he
the
gazed
same
up
token,
into.
the players did ask, so
Yeah.
you know. Um, but another thing that I found interesting was they actually got on to the topic amongst themselves about their retirement. I mean, here we are lamenting that eventually the story of Vox Machina is going to come to a close, and it's the characters and the players are also very aware of this.
Yeah.
Um, and it seemed rather fitting with what they were discussing Grog has no plans after they retire. Vex plans on settling in Whitestone. And this is where we find out a little bit more about the Grey Hunt.
Yes.
Vex will have to go into the woods to meet something. At which point, that something will give her a specific target. She has to do on her own, go out and you know kill whatever it
Hunt.
is that whatever it
Yeah.
is she's been directed to hunt. And in the off season, her her ranger abilities will really come in handy because she'll essentially have to go out, see how the the local wildlife is thriving, and direct what is and is not allowed to be hunted.
Yeah, she's pretty much a glorified ranger of the lands and the forests that surround Whitestone.
So, like I said,
But I think
very
that's
fitting
perfectly
for
fitting
her.
for her.
Yeah,
Someone such as Vex, I think, will just flourish in that role. To have a home, I think, is actually really important for Vex and her character. To have something stable and to have a point of power to kind of give her some self-worth. And then, yeah, the most perfect job in the world to manage a forest and its creatures. I mean,
yeah.
Percy did a really good decision there. Oh no.
Sorry, I breathed wrong and a little saliva went down the wrong tube.
No.
Oh no, Moon says just thinking when the story of VM is over makes me a sad panda. No! Stop thinking
No.
about it. Bring it back.
I thought
Happiness.
I thought Moon Moon was a werewolf, not a were panda. But
Oh
Damn it,
gosh.
Moon
for
Moon.
those familiar with the meme. Um, but continuing with that discussion, Percy plans on building up Whitestone. Uh, Keyleth plans on going to help the Ashari to integrate with the outside world. But one thing I thought was really interesting, there was no talk about what Vax would do.
Yeah. Sneaky. Didn't even come up.
Yeah. But I mean, Keyleth will be traveling around if she's trying to help integrate. So there's always a possibility that it's just going to be the two of them going off sometimes on Vax's own missions for the Raven Queen, possibly.
Yeah.
I think so. I think in his mind, he doesn't actually see a future. He constantly talks to Kiki about settling down in her hometown, making a kind of a home for both of them, and spending like the rest of his life at least with her or by her side. But I think part of him doesn't actually believe that that's ever going to happen. I think in the back of his mind, he feels that when he returns to the temple, it's going to be a finality for him that will probably not allow him to have that happy ending. I seriously believe that he believes that. Whether that's the outcome or not, I'm not sure.
I'm kind of split on this one.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, yeah, I could see the Raven Queen saying, okay, you've done your part. I've let you live past where you should have died. Time
Yes.
to call you home. By the same token, she's one for a death being earned. I don't think she's going to be the one to release Vax of his mortal coil.
Yes, I feel the same too. I don't think that is something that she would do. But he definitely seems to have a fear of it, which is understandable.
It is understandable, but we also have to remember Vax is emo.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't go looking for it, Akiva. It found him.
Well, true, but still.
Like a shadow that just latched on and never let go. Yeah, if there's a negative possible outcome, you will definitely latch onto it. We have learnt
Yes.
this. So hopefully, he will muster up the courage at some point, maybe after this mission, and go and see his Raven Queen, and she will put some of his fears to rest. Although I do think Matt also likes to play with him a bit and keep him on that string. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Whether Matt actually lets him have some peace of mind and give him a bit more of a definite. This is going to be okay. You're going to, retire happily. Or if Matt's going to be like, you know what? I like to watch you squirm. Let's just keep you hanging in suspense.
Well, that just goes to show how good of a DM Matt is, that he's choosing the I'm going to let you squirm in until the
Oh yeah.
very end.
Oh yes, 100%. hmm Scott Graham says, I agree. I don't think Vax truly sees a future for himself. He's either going to die in Vox Machina's shenanigans or through the Raven Queen. Yeah.
But
We'll just have to be the positives.
yeah, moving forward, they do rest for the night. They get up the next morning, and that's where they actually talk with Whitney, the tiefling gardener. And Keyleth plane shifts them to Dis. And as they're going, they actually catch a glimpse of the Divine Gate.
That was so cool.
Yes, it
Oh
was.
yeah, that description was like, oh wow, Matt's really doing that.
Yeah, that pillar of fire. Yeah. Because in every game that I've played where we have gone to either the Nine Hells or one of the Infinite Heavens, we've had to go via physically finding the
Up
Divine
all.
Gate.
Oh, right.
Because
Wow.
and that's simply because like I said, it I've been 3 or 4 times, but we at that time we didn't have somebody who could plane shift us. So,
Right.
but yeah, so they go without Pike, without Kima, and as Felice says, no Zara either, which would have made things a lot easier, I think, because she speaks
Yes.
Infernal.
But this is Vox Machina.
Yes.
They do things as Vox Machina.
So they
I am so sorry.
Wow, that was.
that would have been more. The only way that could have gotten cooler was if that had happened while we were talking about the Grey Hunt.
I am so sorry.
Don't be sorry. That was cool.
I love that ringtone.
So they appear in the middle of the city, and on the horizon they can see the Iron Tower, which is the throne of Disbander. And they realize that they can see it regardless of what direction they look. Like, as soon as it gets out of their line of sight, it appears somewhere else on the horizon.
Yeah.
They travel around a little bit and look for an inn to get off the street. And one of the things about the Nine Hells, depending on where you are, the weather goes through extremes. And it's very appropriate that they've already gone through the plane of fire, because the specific hell that Dis is on is very hot. Just, touching a building, walking on the street, it burns them. But Matt did a really great job of the description of the various devils and imps, and other fiends that live in the city.
Yeah.
And they find out that Dis is a much bigger city than any other city Vox Machina has come across. Which, go ahead.
Gone. If I may, back to like everything surrounding them, they'll take points of damage if they stand there too long. Do you think that would have factored into any kind of battle? Like if they fall unconscious, do they immediately start taking damage from the ground
Yes.
as well?
Yes. It actually says so in. Well, I don't know in 5th edition if it says so or not. But in earlier editions, it actually said if you fall unconscious and you are on in one spot for longer than 6 seconds, you take 1d6 fire damage just from being there.
Can it be argued that Keyleth should have died?
We'll get into that when it comes up.
Okay.
So, but, one cool thing that Keyleth did at this point was that she, was trying to find any creatures that she could add to her repertoire of I can turn into these things as they're going along. The problem came from the fact that everything in Dis, everything in pretty much every layer of the Nine Hells, has a fiendish quality to them.
Yep.
So can't really do that as a druid. You can turn into beasts, but not fiendish beasts. Now she might be able to, using the I'm drawing a blank, and it was the spell.
Shape change?
Yes, the
And
shape
that
change.
level, yeah, shape change.
But so trying to find the inn, they just can't seem to make any headway. So Percy goes over to talk to a lemure, which I laughed so hard during episode 91 because Matt kept calling them lemurs.
Well, to be fair, I probably would have done the same. I didn't realize that
Yeah, me
they're not
neither.
pronounced that way. And when I read it, that's how I read it. So,
Well, that's
but
why there's the E on the end.
right, Liam. Apparently, like Liam said that was his nickname or something like that, and mentioned that the description of a lemure is quite fitting. So that made me a bit sad. I'm like, oh no, Liam, don't take that on.
Yeah, that was at the
They're-
beginning
they're-
of 92, I think.
Yeah, they're quite horrible, tortured creatures.
Yeah, they are. Well, for anyone in the chat and any of our viewers who are watching this after we've posted it, a lemure is a bound, corrupted soul.
Yep.
They are very deformed, almost useless, but they're kept as prized pets by various demons. Others use them as food. Others use them to forge them into soul shards in order for currency. So
Playthings for torture,
pretty much.
because that's pretty much what they do down there. That's their off time.
Yes.
I love that the first thing that they saw was a bunch of them just getting escorted, I think by a bone devil.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
That
they
opening scene.
yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
So, as they don't get anything from the lemure, and in fact, the bone devil that owns the particular lemure that Percy's trying to talk to steps out of the building, yells at the party in Infernal before taking the lemures and leaving.
They've all disguised themselves at this point.
Yes. Yeah. As is a very cautious step that very much should be undertaken anytime you go to any of the hells. Um, Kivon also points out something that I forgot to mention. Lemures can also be raised into lesser demons, at which point they are capable of amassing power and raising themselves into full devils.
Yeah, devil, not demon. Definitely devils, yeah.
I thought I had said devil, and I apologize.
It's alright. They're very different creatures in D&D.
Yes, they are. So, as they continue on, and Vax thinks very hard about being in front of that tower as they continue on. But they end up turning another street, and they actually see some humans and other non-devil races. Vex ends up overhearing a couple of humans whispering about their discontent with the city of Dis. And then she tries subtly to get some information, but fails.
She rolled so high, too. Oh, my lord.
Yeah, but these are humans that are used to dealing with devils, so they don't
Yeah.
trust anybody.
Yeah, sometimes no matter how high you roll, if something just doesn't make sense, if something would not go in a particular direction no matter what, it's just, yeah. It's just too difficult, but
Yeah,
I like that she tried, because at this point we were like, oh my gosh, are they just going to walk around? So they need to talk to somebody.
in fact, in 5th edition, anything with a DC of 35 is supposed to be impossible.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
even with a nat 20, it's supposed to be impossible.
Yeah.
Of course, this is Vox Machina, and they regularly roll 47 for stealth.
Yeah. Anything's possible.
So, but eventually, Vox Machina finds an inn. They're given a room and presented with some strange stones. Keyleth, tests them first by tapping one on her teeth, and finds herself swallowing a soul.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
So
I love it. These players like this, I mean, people are like, oh no, why do you always make mistakes and do silly things like that? God, if you don't have players that do silly things like that, then you would miss out on awesome things like this.
Oh yeah.
You have to, as a player, be willing to just sometimes try silly little things, because yeah, it's horrible. She did swallow someone's fragmented soul. All right, we get that, but it was hilarious. It was so good.
It's the best.
Here's the thing that made me as a DM squee. That's our first mark of corruption within the 9 hells.
Uh-huh.
So now she appears on someone's radar. If I were DMing, as soon as she did that, I mean, she's already on someone's radar because she's killed kids. But
Not on purpose.
yeah, the first one, that wasn't on purpose. It's still a mark of corruption. Somebody to keep an eye on. This she did intentionally. She may not have known it was a soul, but she intentionally put the soul shard in her mouth and swallowed it. She's now become a lesser target. For soul corruption, I mean.
I mean, by the end of this, they were all like higher targets. But...
Well, yeah, but that's beside the point. Well, they're higher targets for a different reason.
That's true.
So, after Keyleth does this, Terry tries it, and he then purchases 50.
Yeah.
That's kind of
I,
where I was like, I wasn't really sure that Terry would do that. Had Sam been playing, but I let it slide because it was funny.
Yeah. Honestly, knowing what I know of Sam, yeah, Terry would have done it. In fact,
yeah, maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised if Matt had gotten a text from Sam saying, "Hey, go ahead and have Terry buy some."
That's true.
So, so Vox Machina retreats to their room to decide what to do next, and they eventually agree that they have no idea what the hell they're doing and they need more information.
Yes.
Um, so Percy and Grog head down to talk to the bartender, and they're pointed towards the owner of the establishment, a devil by the name of Ipkesh. Ipkesh tells them that he may be able to help them for a price. And in explaining what that price is, Ipkesh sort of takes them into a pocket dimension
Yeah.
so that they can't
Yeah,
be.
someone in chat said, "Oh my God, he's fucking Q from Star Trek." I love that.
Yeah.
Star Trek references always get me going. But yeah, he is obviously very powerful that he can just transport him and the two people at his table into his own little pocket dimension. But that's actually quite common
Yes.
in especially in a city like this where everyone is listening to everyone and you know a city run by fear and constant suspicion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So while they're in this pocket dimension, Percy explains their situation, and Ipkesh tells him that he and his business partners work for someone that they rather would be removed from the playing field,
Mhm.
assassinated, to be blunt. Um, and he proposes that if Vox Machina kills this higher up without alerting anyone that they were under contract, the devil would help them gain passage safely to the prison and point them to their quarry, Hodis, who is apparently being held inside.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's right. They do track down that Hodis is indeed in prison. Keyleth did scry on him once they got there.
I missed that. I
Yeah,
was
so did
probably up.
I.
I was probably up getting a soda or something at that point.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
they see Hodis. Keyleth sees him down in a cell, this massive prison, and sees this fetus-like creature squirming in agony with a whole bunch of membranes just sticking to the walls, and it's just trying to build itself back together in order to break out. But Hodis is not reformed, and they caught him early.
Well, yeah. As we were mentioning back when Hodis made his second appearance, normally it takes Rakshasa about a century, around 100 years, to reform themselves. So the fact that he was able to come back that second time so quickly, um, he had to have gotten help from someone.
Yeah, it seems like because of also where he is currently, maybe he is a Rakshasa who has friends in high places. An extra powerful Rakshasa maybe who is in the service of somebody who has the ability to speed that all up. Um,
By the same token, and keep in mind, I apologize to everyone in chat. I've not seen episode 93.
Oh, okay.
So, um, But I'm the type of person that I love spoilers, so that's why I'm diving headfirst into this. Because after we get done here, I'm gonna edit the video, get it ready, get it started on its
Upload and then go watch it.
upload, and then go watch it. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, it doesn't really answer, to be honest, any of those questions. I can tell you right now. We never really find out if there's another connection there with Hodis. It just does seem to be a simple Rakshasa
I mean, he was
reforming.
guarded though.
He was guarded and he
Well,
was in a very special prison,
yeah,
which is why I'm like, oh,
but what I was going to say was there are several different levels of
yeah,
the prison
yeah,
in Dis,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
one of those levels is reserved for devils that break contracts. So
Well,
it's very possible that Hodis was in there because he broke whatever contract allowed him to come back so quickly that second time.
that's possible. Yeah.
I like the fact that because of this theory, I now I'm under the impression that Vox Machina absolutely did not need to go to hell. They could have just stayed away because Hodis probably wasn't going to come for them.
I remember they definitely had that conversation in past episodes and kind of determined the fact that although some of them probably wouldn't live long enough to see the outcome, people like Pike definitely will. So because she's now on his radar, because she killed him, I think, last time, so technically that means that his revenge would be against her, she would still be alive in time for him to enact any kind of revenge. So it was, I think that's also why Matt made a point of Pike saying, don't go down there without me, because it was then personal for her as well.
Yeah, Keyleth, Pike, and Scanlan were... I mean, they would have had to face Hodis pretty much on their own.
Of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Vox Machina is a family. They're not going to let their family members have to face that on their own.
No, definitely not.
So...
Kayvon makes a point that he said, I never knew that, and that Allura said it takes months, which is kind of where I got confused a little bit too, because Matt has said that it only takes months within the campaign, but you're saying that it takes a century.
Take a quick look.
So in the monster manual, it says it takes about a century for them to come back.
Okay.
And I don't remember Matt saying that it takes months.
Yeah, so Evil Reborn for Rakshasa, death in the material plane means an agonizing and torturous return to the Nine Hells, where its essence remains trapped until its body reforms, a process that can take months or years. When a Rakshasa is reborn, or their memories and knowledge of the former life is kept, including who slew it. If the target has somehow slipped through the grasp, the Rakshasa might punish its family, friends, or descendants. So yeah, no, you're correct. It can take months or years.
Okay.
Depending. Yeah, I knew it took years. I had it in my head that it took a number of years. I wasn't too sure about it being a century long, but I definitely knew that it took a while. So there you go. It can take months as well.
Okay. Well, I stand corrected.
I suppose I also had it in my head that Rakshasas, every time they're killed, it takes longer for them to come back. I don't know if that's just something that Matt said in a previous episode or if someone else has said that to me, because I play with a lot of different groups and speak to a lot of different DMs, so I don't know if someone else has said that that's the way that they play it, is every single time there. But that makes sense because, I mean, if you fail in your job, technically you're demoted. So it makes sense in my head, and I would probably play it the same way, that every single time a Rakshasa is killed, it takes even longer and longer for you to reform, and therefore you're tortured and, have to go through that process for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Every single time is a form of punishment.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea.
Yeah.
So, but Percy ends up telling Ipkesh that he would have to consider, or take time to consider the deal, talk with the rest of Vox Machina about it. So they head back upstairs to discuss the new option. They talk it over. It comes down to a vote, and they opt to wait a little while. Keyleth heads out into the street in order to. Um,
She wants to scan the city
yeah,
for HOTUS. Use locate creature from
yeah.
above, and then
But as she heads out, she finds herself being followed by a chain devil and a dwarf.
Yes. Now they actually noticed these two going into the tavern, because Keyleth asked if anyone was actually paying them any attention, specifically Vax. And obviously it was on her mind that there might be some kind of a force or some sort of a telltale sign that Vax was actually the chosen of the Raven Queen, and that maybe people in this might be able to see that and latch onto him as a prize. I
also he
think
was a white tiefling.
Yes, that was the other thing. He chose to be a white tiefling. Liam
Yes.
doesn't like to be the same as everyone else. I get that. I'm totally the same. But in choosing a white tiefling, he's kind of made himself stand out a bit more compared to other people. And there was some interesting discussions on Reddit in relation to this as to why maybe being a white tiefling made him a target of these two as a prized possession, because yeah, okay, albino tieflings aren't very common, so that might have been a reason, but what if it's more? We know that Lilith has some very complex and intricate family issues, where there's apparently this whole tiefling family that is pretty evil and screwed up, that I would have definitely not dismiss possibly having some connections with different devils in the Nine Hells, maybe working for some of them on the primaterial plane, being a bit of a connection between the two planes.
Yep.
So there could be a whole slew of a storyline behind why these two picked out Vax as a target and a prize, and I would really love to know.
So, in my thinking, tieflings are pretty rare. Albinos of any species are incredibly rare.
Mm.
So you have a very rare tiefling that is very rarely albino, and it becomes a trophy.
Oh, so you think maybe it's just because of what he was in his color? There's no deep connection with maybe Lilith's backstory that might have
I don't think
made
so.
it stick out. Oh, because that would have been cool.
Yeah,
John O'Brien
I
in chat
was just
says,
about to bring that up.
yeah, sorry.
John O'Brien
Hi,
in the
John, by
chat.
the way.
Yeah, he says, "Hi, folks." Apparently, he's coming in a little late. Not a problem. But he also says, "We all blame Kit for making white tieflings too cool. It is Kit Bus's fault."
Hell yes.
There it is. John
I
O'Brien with the
don't.
words of wisdom.
I totally don't follow that line of thinking, Kit. If you're ever listening to this, I got your back, Art Bud.
Well, Kit, she did play a white tiefling.
She did.
Oh,
Yeah.
she did so well too. Gosh, I'd love to
Yes.
have her back.
But they want the white one, as they say, and Keyleth responds, "The white one belongs to her, but fails her deception," and the two prepare to attack, and that's the end of the episode.
Yes. I'd like to say that at this point I was very excited. My favorite devil is actually chain devils. I don't know why. I know there are cooler devils, I'm doing little quotation marks in the air, that exist, but I just have this thing for chain devils. They're so sick.
Well,
Thank you.
interesting family-friendly show, Jessica.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But if Kalia
What did I
had
miss?
been able, yeah, if Kalia had been able to make, I'll tell you after the show, Kat.
Oh, okay.
If Kalia had been able to make it this episode, she would be keen on reminding me that a chain devil actually gave my monk a belly button piercing.
Oh, yeah. That sounds about right. Uh-huh. Was it by choice?
No, not
No,
really.
not usually my choice.
So, but that will bring us into episode 92. I'm sending a real quick message to you, Kat.
Okay.
There you go. So yeah. Uh, Episode 92, of course, picks up in the alleyway uh, with the Chain Devil and the twisted, deformed dwarf ready to attack. And Keyleth uses shape change to turn into an Aranyas. And this is where her deception skills just skyrocket. She deceives them into thinking she is legitimately an Aranyas, and the two back down.
Yes. Awesome.
Um, Keyleth returns to the room and tells the rest of the party, "Hey guys, I was followed. I had to shape change, so I'm not able to locate creature." Um, Grog mentions that he had kept a ring from an imp that they had killed way early in the campaign. And Matt relays that it has a signet inlaid into it.
Isn't this crazy that, they can pull stuff? Because he said it was like the second oldest thing that he had on his list of
Yep.
items. They'll just pull this stuff out, and Matt's like, oh, yeah, it's this and that. And again, my instant reaction is, well, I do this all the time, where a player will throw things at me and I'll just make stuff up on the spot to link stuff in. I'll be like, oh, yeah, that's a really cool thing that you've just thrown at me. Let me, like, weave it into the story. Hopefully you don't even notice me doing it. And I don't know if that's
As
what Matt did, or if maybe he's like, no, I actually had this. I had the idea of what this was all along.
I don't know, but either way, it was a very cool yes and moment, as Kalia would say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so they or Marisha asks about possibly using the ring to do a scrying, and of course Matt's like, well, you could use it as a focus to scry on the imp you killed, but it wouldn't really help in the long term, or in your goal of getting to Hodis. Um, so they go back to voting on what they should do, and at first it ends up being a tie, and Tyrion, of course, says, "Well, I have Dodie; he should get a vote." To which Vex replies, "I have Trinket." So they have the two arm wrestle in order to settle the vote.
Yeah.
Oh
This
boy.
meant I was so happy.
Yes.
I'm like, I want this. I didn't even know I wanted this in my life, but now I do, and I really want this in my life. And it ended so well. And then all of the trinket spam in the chat.
Yes.
I was so happy.
So Tyrion tells Dodie to arm wrestle Trinket, and Dodie actually takes up an arm wrestling position. Um, Vex tells Trinket to arm wrestle Dodie, and of course, him being a bear, he can't really do the arm wrestle stance. So he just walks up and smacks Dodie's arm.
Uh-huh.
Trinket gets a 14 on his strength roll. Dodie gets a 10 on his strength roll. Which causes Tyrion to question if Trinket is a real bear or a robot bear. And when Vex says he's real, Terry says prove it. So Vex tells Trinket to go piss on Tyrion.
Oh gosh.
Mm.
And as hilarious as it is, it does sort of backfire, though.
Yeah.
The stones are still, or the stones that the building is made of, still very, very hot. So you get essentially boiled urine.
Oh, that would smell so bad.
Ooh.
Smells
Yep.
so bad. In a
No.
place that I'm sure already smells really bad.
Yeah. So they vacate the room, go on back downstairs, and they ponder over the contract. And Matt has one actually printed up. I forgot to grab the link to it, but Matt did post
Ah, I was
the
wondering about that.
yeah he did post the contract to Twitter. So if you go back through Matt's Twitter feed, you'll be able to find it. I don't have the link, so I apologize for that. But the contract has 3 pacts that can be invoked. The first pact is their immediate. The second and third, they don't have to invoke, but it's there just to tempt them.
Yep. As Liam said, they went in to buy a car and they got the condo and everything else chucked
They
in on
got
contract just
they
as an
got the
option.
yep, they got the option for the condo and land in Florida.
Yep.
The first pact is basically they go and kill their target or their assassination target. In return, Ipkesh will provide them with safe passage to the Bastion of Flesh.
Yep.
The second pact, if it becomes invoked, they get a bunch of devils that they will be able to command as they
Utilize.
will. And if
Mm.
the if the devils that they summon fall outside of a certain location, then they cannot summon them back. In return, Ipkesh gets to choose 2 locations of worship that Vox Machina will have to introduce a devil to,
Yes.
allowing that devil to then corrupt said church.
Yeah. And probably I'm not sure if this might have made a lot of sense to maybe people new to D&D as to why that's such a big thing. Basically, the gods exist off the back of worshippers.
Yes.
The people on the prime material plane worship the gods, and that's what makes gods exist. If they have no worshippers, then they're pretty much gods are nothing. So it's actually a big thing to have that kind of a power where they can go, okay, we want to weaken this particular god and strengthen that particular god via 2 places of worship. It's not a small task in place. And as Vox Machina pointed out, they didn't want that on their prime material plane, which is completely understandable. That kind of stuff is like a cancer. It will
Yes.
spread.
So, um, and the third pact, the way Tyrion worded it, they'll get all sorts of devil magic in exchange for their immortal soul.
Yeah, it's through the death of somebody.
Now, to me, that sounded like a warlock pact.
Yeah, that did.
Yes,
Okay, I just wanted
yes,
to make
yeah.
sure I wasn't alone in that.
No,
Yep,
it totally sounded exactly like what a warlock how
would
you would
do.
get a warlock. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, they do a little bit of shopping, and as they head out to do so, they're like, we can't use our real names, so we have to come up with fake names.
Fake names or pseudonym. A pseudonym? Is that what it's
Pseudonym,
called?
yes.
Pseudonym.
Uh, Percy and Grog already had one, which was actually broke Matt the first time they said it upon
Yeah.
agreeing with upon dealing with Ipkesh. It's Freddie and Greg.
Yes, that was watching Matt's reaction when they came up with that was just hilarious.
He tried so hard.
Yes. Um, the others have to come up with names, and Vex and Vax become Woad and Wade.
Yes,
Keyleth,
you could see Vex was pretty happy about that.
yeah,
It's like, Woad? Really?
yeah. Keyleth chooses to go with Minxie, and Tyrion goes essentially with his name backwards.
Which
But
was suggested by Grog.
yes, which was surprising. But I think if you look at that scene, Liam, he sort of laughs about it because when it's pronounced, it's not, you know, Noirat or something like that. It sounds like you rat.
Yo,
Which
it was pretty good. So it's obviously Travis just forgot for a moment that he's supposed to have such a low intelligence and was just being himself and coming up with that awesome uh, version of Tyrion's name.
yes.
And then you can see Laura think about it for a second and then be like, hey, wait on.
And then
You're not-
immediately Travis just goes, "Oh, my head! Oh."
Nosebleed,
good.
immediate nosebleed.
Yeah, Matt chimes in with, "There's a little trickle of blood coming out of Grog's ear."
Oh, poor guy.
So they go off shopping, and they're talking with this very spiny devil. And the devil sort of tries to square off against Keyleth, who then flashes her Aaron Yes face.
Yeah.
Which, of course, a spiny devil versus an Aaron Yes. Spiny devils are much lower on the totem pole. So he gets scared. Keyleth pretty much demands that this devil tell them how they can get into the prison. Unfortunately, the spiny devil can't help, but does give some gifts.
He gives a.
I guess you could
Yeah.
call it.
Not by choice, I don't think.
Oh,
No,
no.
she's bullied into it.
Yeah, and this is great because really that's the only way you can get something that you're reasonably sure won't kill you immediately.
Right.
Is if you have to bully and harass the shopkeeper to give it to you. And I don't mean to sell it to you because that's just a sales tactic. But Keyleth then, playing her part, gives permission for the others to buy at their own expense something from the shop. So Tyrion ends up getting a purple geode-like stone filled with souls, and a bracelet. The bracelet is still attached to an arm that appears to be one end of a communication enchantment. And as Travis put it, they got one piece of, or they got one walkie-talkie out of a set, and they don't know where the other one is. So, they decide to head back to the tavern, and in doing so, Marisha goes, "All right, roll out." And you could see that she mentioned that she was struggling with it, but you could see her struggle with not saying the full Transformers roll out.
Yeah. I think that was such a great thing because she was doing so well. And like again, everyone that says, "Oh, Kiki, rah rah, she can't do it," whatever. She again proved, yeah, no, Kiki has it in her. She can be forceful. She can play the role when she really has to. She can do her best at it. But at the end of the day, she's still Kiki. So I love that she decided to at the end of that go. Like just fall back onto the silly little ditzy personality traits that she does have, and just remind everyone, okay, I understand that I did a really cool job and a really cool act here, but I'm still keyless.
Yep. So they return, and when they had gotten the little soul shards, Matt had also mentioned this meat stuff. And everybody was like, "Yeah, we're not going to touch that stuff." So Grog goes back downstairs, deciding he wants to try some of the meat stuff. And Vax follows him.
Oof.
He
Go ahead.
He uses a bone because there's no real utensils. So he uses a bone to try to eat some of it, and there are still bone shards in the meat. It's very meaty, very raw, and very painful.
Yeah.
It's not going to be very comfortable when it comes out the other end either.
Yeah, I don't think that's a dish that he can bring back with him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
By
try the
the
local cuisine, but
by the same token, he is a Goliath. So eating bones while painful in the mouth, or he's a Goliath barbarian to be specific. Eating bones, while painful in the mouth, it's occupational hazard.
yeah.
So he might be able to digest them. But it was hilarious because Matt was describing the meat and the goo coming off of the meat as being black, which of course Vax identified as blood.
Yeah.
But when Grog was eating it, of course, there was a little trickle of blood coming out of his mouth, and Matt was made sure to point out that it was not the black blood of the dish, it was red blood coming because of the bone shards. So yeah, I'm fairly 99.99 ad infinitum % sure that was human meat.
Perhaps, yeah.
Technically not cannibalism, but...
Well, I say human, and I mean one of the races of the surface.
Yeah, could be a creature of some kind, yeah.
It very well could possibly have been cannibalism. We don't know. But, so they go, back upstairs, and Terry and Percy are fighting over who will sign the contract. Percy is willing to sign the contract because he feels that he is not tempted by the other two pacts. Terry wants to sign it because he wants the demons of the second pact.
Yeah. At first, when he said, I'll sign it, I thought it was just a show of him being brave or being cocky, even. His reaction when Percy shoved it over and said, well, there you go, made me think that he didn't even think that they would allow him to sign it.
That
And
was
then
that was
a
the
little bit
Sam
later,
reaction.
yeah, oh, maybe it wasn't in character. But then it definitely came out that he was interested in summoning the demons, which I think notched that coffin to Percy's belt, because nobody in Vox Machina wants demons running around on the prime material plane
Yep.
for any reason. So that makes sense.
Not only that, but the way Terry
Cancerous
mentioned,
corruption too.
well, yeah, but the way Tyrion had talked about getting the demon magic, there was a little bit of salesman going on there. He wanted that demon magic.
Mm-hmm.
So,
he did just mention the demons, but yeah, once you go down one road, it's not that far of a stretch to keep going.
So, but Percy does mention that the first pact seems a little thin, so they decide to renegotiate. And in return for doing the assassination, they not only get safe passage into the prison, but they also obtain a guide to get them there. Well, to get them to their target and get them to the prison, as well as keeping their equipment and armor. Now, keeping in mind that I have not seen episode 93, but being the evil DM that I am, Matt phrased it specifically. I can arrange for your equipment to be handled
Unharmed and within your sight.
Well, yeah, unharmed and within your sight. Not on them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what happened.
I would.
Happened.
Yeah. Well, no. What I'm saying though is I would have put it behind an impenetrable glass wall. Magic can't affect it. None of that.
Oh gosh.
All of their
You're
items
wow.
are
Difficult,
stuck.
but impossible.
Yeah, I would have made it
Make
impossible.
things a challenge.
I would have made it impossible.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
I shouldn't say I shouldn't say impossible. There is a way to get to it if they roll high enough.
I'm making a note right now. If Akiva ever invites me to play in a campaign, say no, underline, exclamation marks.
Jeez.
And I actually pulled something similar. There was a in one of my campaigns, the first obstacle was, turned out it was a door. The rogue broke the lockpicks in the door, jamming it so that it could not be unlocked. Unfortunately for the party, that was their only way through, because the door was warded and impervious to magic. And the wizard decided to expend every spell he had on this door.
Oh.
I shouldn't say it was the only way. They did eventually get through it. The barbarian had to kick the door down.
Oh, yeah.
But it
Always
was
typical.
but it was specifically warded against magic. And I told the wizard after he used 2 spells. He still had 7 left. I told him after 2, your magic is not going to work on this door. But he continued with the magic, and he effed himself. There you go. But anyway, moving on with the episode. um, they are provided with a silence spell in order to help them with their sneaking. And an imp by the name of Vasa, or Vasa, which Laura took a little offense to because the Vex and Vax's last name is Vasar. But Matt clarified that the spelling of the imp's name was Vasa. 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 Whatever. But, you know, the Vasa is supposed to guide them to their quarry. So they're, you know, they pass without a trace, they're sneaking along, and Percy fails his stealth check with a 1. Terry fails his, not with a 1, but with a 16 with the pass without a trace. So Percy ends up tripping and, you know, breaks off from the group so that the rest of the group won't get seen, because he notices after he's fallen and injured his or hit his elbow hard enough to make him gasp at least, that, you know, an imp that's normally flying watching the city has landed and taking special interest in him. So he gets up, you know, is nursing his injury and pulls out one of the soul shards that they were given at the inn. Sniffs at it and then just tosses it away. At the same time, a second imp is coming up. And when he tosses the soul shard away, the first imp goes after it. But the second imp is still following him. Tarion also hung back, and he goes invisible and starts following them. After, you know, ducking a corner, trying to shake his tail and get his stealth back, and he also, you know, Percy also uses his spider boots to go up on the side of the alley in order to try and help himself get be hidden again. But a green glow appears. And it's one of these specters that they've been seeing on the streets, sort of wandering aimlessly and such. Hands are coming out of the ground. And it's looking like this specter is going to attempt to capture Percy.
Mm-hmm.
The specter starts jumping from window to window, going after Percy.
That's the imp.
No, that
The
was...
imp. Was it the specter?
It was the specter.
I thought it was the imp, but
It was the specter.
It was a specter, because
Yes.
I don't see specters in my head jumping from. I see them kind of like woo.
It's the Nine Hells. I figure they're a little more corporeal there than anywhere else.
Right.
But it was the specter thing. And Tarion, you know, from his invisibility, throws a tarfoot bag and manages to connect where the specter is just about to land at the same time, and sticks the specter for a moment.
Yeah, it breaks his invisibility too, which I think confuses a lot of new players that any kind of a movement like that is classed as an attack, even though you're not
Yes.
trying to physically harm something. It's still an attack and will break it.
Yes. Now, if you're new to D&D, there is a greater invisibility spell that will allow you to attack and remain invisible. But Sam didn't specify which invisibility he was using, so Matt as the DM made the call. You didn't tell me it was greater, so you just used regular invisibility. But Vax, pops out from the shadows because he's been watching from like a block away or so. He dashes over, sees the specter up there, and throws Whisper at it, and does enough damage that it dissipates the specter.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. The imp, after getting the specter on their case, the imp, of course, went back to its route, or patrol rather. So everybody gets back into stealth, and they continue on. The party finds themselves in the center-ish of Dis, and a large patch of construction is pulled in front of them, sort of like a very thick barbed wire fence. In order to get through it, Grog pops into Vex's little gem because he's too big to get through it otherwise without getting cut all to ribbons. Vex.
I love that idea.
Oh yeah.
Too. That was such a great thinking by Laura.
Yeah. And of course, Vex goes back and gets Trinket, brings her back over. But Doty can't get into the necklace because he's not a living creature.
And to be fair, up until this point, they seem to have forgotten about him completely.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little sad.
Well, they do the same thing
I
with
suppose
Trinket.
they do the same thing with Trinket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Doty pulls it apart, makes enough room to get through, and then Grog bends it back into place.
Rather loudly, which was getting me really anxious because they did not make perception checks, and this is a stronghold that probably has Sentinels all around it. Sentinels there. And I knew immediately as I got in there, they were going to be spotted. Somebody inside knew exactly who was trying to get in.
I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, to be honest, that they didn't get confronted in the garden or something like that. Also, this movement with Tyrion deciding to have Doty actually pull the fence apart and take quite a bit of damage in doing so was such... It kind of made me a little like, because obviously Doty means a lot to Tyrion, and I would not see Vex asking Trinket to do a similar thing where he kind of puts himself into a position where he takes so much in the end, that initial amount of damage with Doty pulling that fence apart was his undoing, right?
Yeah.
And so in retrospect, it was kind of a sad choice. Whereas Grog, he put it back together. He probably could have opened it for Doty, and been able to be okay because of his large hit point amount. So
yeah, but by the same token, being the magic tinker that Tyrion is, he can repair Doty. At that point, that was what was going through their mind.
Of course, yeah. It's just, it's kind of like having a toy and not really looking after it all that well, was my initial thought when he asked him to do that. But yeah.
So, um, but they're now at the back of this building, and Tyrion uses his robe of useful things, pulling a patch off, slamming it to the wall, and a door appears. And fortunately for Vox Machina, this is a friendly door, so it opens at their touch, and they find dead bodies hanging from chains in various states of decay slash being ripped to shreds. Some of the chains are empty and there's crusted blood on them. Ugh. And on a table, there's this figure that's seemingly bisected. It's got the upper body, it's got the lower body, but the midsection stomach has been pretty much chopped and eaten away. They get closer to the table, and as they do, they see a dwarf by the name of, who is introduced as Tova. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that name sounded familiar to me.
Me too, but
Yeah,
not for
me
the
too.
reasons that you're thinking.
So,
I have a different reason, so.
what is your reason?
Oh, I have a character with a similar name, so it
Oh,
doesn't relate
okay.
at all to. Yeah.
Okay. But have we heard Tova before? Or heard of Tova? Or seen Tova?
I feel like I had heard it, and I wasn't too sure whether it's just because it's one of those names that is like Jess said, very similar to a lot of consistent names that you see in RPGs. Apparently, there's a Tova in Skyrim.
Yes.
Um, so I feel like Tova is one of those names that is used a lot in MMOs and games and RPGs. So maybe that's why. I don't think that it's been brought up in Critical Role before.
So, okay. Maybe I was wrong. Um, I like Jess's little note here. Uh, one thing that
Not
they...
mine.
Or Cat's note, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought... Don't mind me.
It gets confusing after a while.
It does.
Who's doing what?
But the question is asked, what happened to your face? To which Tova replies, an unfortunate chemistry set accident. Did
I
any
love Noel.
did anybody else immediately realize that this was a blood
Where?
hunter?
Oh, a blood hunter. No, I did not make that connection. I should
Nope.
have.
Well, because in the blood hunter paths, they use chemicals distilled from creatures and monsters and such in order to have their abilities. So it makes sense. An unfortunate chemistry set accident causes the scarring and such.
That's a good connection to make. I just thought that she was BSing, to be honest. I thought
Yeah.
that she was just delivering that line to try to, because I'm like, okay, that's a bit off center. But yeah, if that's
It's
actually
possible.
the reason for it, and the reason why she is then a blood hunter, that's interesting.
Yeah.
John says that in Hebrew, Tova means good girl.
Yes.
That is totally not Tova. And Moonman says that Tova is a perfect name for a dwarf. It's Nordic in IRL.
Well, it's a common Nordic name, yes. But
Cool.
it is also a common phrase in Hebrew. So it could have... now that all of that has been brought up, it could have come from anywhere.
Yeah.
So, um, but yeah, PJ Smith in the chat is saying, not at that point. Now looking back, it seems more obvious. For me, it was like right off the bat, chemistry set accident, scars. In one of my games, I had a player who played a blood hunter, and one of the characteristics that they had was scars across the face. And so for me, it was like instant click. Um, but as you know, they're trying to stealth their way through after releasing Tova. They fail their stealth checks and they're discovered. And so,
Grog just drops to the floor. I
yeah,
love that part. She's like, I drop immediately to the floor. Like, he's gonna see you. What are you doing?
pretty much. So, a fight ensues. And in this fight, this is where I got the. Although as I said, it clicked with me and I had my suspicions with the chemistry set accident comment. As soon as Tova became, or revealed herself to be a werebear, that's when I was like, I was right.
Nice.
Um, but yeah. In the end, Tyrion actually gets a kill by poking one of the guards with his spear. And then, and Trinket gets released and fights side by side with Tova, which I thought was in my head, it was a very epic scene.
Yeah, that's adorable.
Most definitely.
Um, so after that short little skirmish, they start to. Vox Machina argues a little bit about how they're going to enter the room and engage their target. To which Grog gets impulsive, just walks up, and ends up triggering an oil trap. He jumps out of the way, continues advancing towards their target. He turns, and they find a huge pit fiend sitting, waiting for them. And the last in-character comment for the episode, effing Jenga. So,
Beautiful.
yes. Now, I'm going to let you guys take lead on this because, like I said, I haven't watched episode 93 yet.
Okay.
Cool.
Should I start off, or should
Yeah,
you?
just if you want to do it, because it's all your notes, so you can
All right.
definitely do that. I will just point out, Moon Moon says that with all the stealth checks, I really wonder how things would have gone if Pike had tagged along.
Oh,
Yeah,
they would have had
pretty bad.
fights the entire way.
Pretty bad. Maybe it probably would have even been better if she had just not worn her armor, to be honest. Maybe worn different armor, like lower her AC, just to allow herself to be more stealthy.
Or there is another
Always an-
possibility.
Yeah.
If Keyleth, maintained.
Ability.
Well, no. But if Keyleth maintained her Aaron Yes appearance, like as soon as they got up and had decided, hey, we're going to go do this, anytime that they went somewhere, keep Pike on a chain.
That would have been good.
Yes,
That would have been
that
a great disguise.
opened up the slew of her having to deceive others, though, which Keyleth is not technically that good at, so that would have probably been another slew of possible issues and problems, but
Oh, true,
it
but
probably would have been the better way to go as well,
Yeah.
or another option.
so
All right, Jess, take it away.
So this episode, unofficially right now entitled Vox Machina Goes to Prison, question mark. The initiative starts immediately. Matt does mention that the two pools that are on the map are. I had thought that it was molten lava, and I was having lava flashbacks when he first revealed it in the episode before. I think, but it's just molten blood. And Udagosh telepathically tells it was either just Grog or everybody. He says, "So, what do you bring to pleasure me?" I know. Not my words. Not my words.
Going back to chain demons. Let's move on, shall we?
So
Vex actually does send Trinket out, which kind of surprised me, to battle with the Pit Fiend in melee.
Yes.
But she kind of reveals later that that was intentional, so she could get sneak attack bonuses. Yeah.
Yep.
It's good thinking, and but usually, she still doesn't really risk it, and I kind of wonder if, maybe it was partially that, or also partially her trying to prove Trinket a bit more lately, especially with Dodie around.
With Dodie around, yeah. Because there seems to be that friendly rivalry between Sam and Laura, whose companion is better.
Yeah.
So.
So there is also a point early on where Tyrion actually places a window on the wall, so that people can shoot through it while they take cover.
That's a very cool little tactic there.
Yeah, it was like the door. Did we mention that before? How he just slapped the door on the wall to let them in?
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I was probably distracted for a second there. Just those sorts of things are so cool, and you kind of with Tyrion, it's kind of difficult to see the strengths of his character, because I feel like Sam is still trying to get used to playing him and what he's capable of doing. But he's definitely got some tricks up his sleeve, which I'm loving seeing them come out.
Most literally.
Literally.
Yes.
It's got a flashback to the chains with Vex and Percy in the City of Brass. Yeah. Fun times. Good memories.
So throughout this battle, Udagosh is actually giving orders via little hand signals to minions, invisible minions, so that they can set off traps and alert other guards to the intruder's presence, which is basically like imps pushing buttons on the walls, and then bone devils and bearded devils coming to help their master. And there's actually a point where both Trinket and Grog get trapped under cages with spikes, and Laura is so mad at Matt. She calls him out on animal cruelty. But Matt points out that he isn't evil, it's Udagosh, and Travis counteracts that by saying, "Sir, we pulled you over for speeding. No, I wasn't speeding. It was the Pit Fiend."
That's a pretty good throwback to Matt.
Yep.
Obviously, these evil thoughts and ideas come from somewhere, and only Matt has himself to really claim those thoughts and ideas. Again, they did discuss it a little bit in WonderCon, how for a little while there, Marisha was kind of wondering who it was she was engaged to, especially when he came up with the whole idea of stringing up villages in Whitestone as a warning to Vox Machina right back episodes and episodes ago. He actually had a number of just normal everyday villages painted like Vox Machina and strung up in the tree. And it's just these kind of ideas that it's like, okay, these ideas have to be coming from somewhere, Matt. You can't just say that it's always these NPCs that are little voices in the back of your head that are still in your head.
Yeah. So,
then we get Tova in action, and she's actually got a feature known as Mutual Suffering, which is allowing her to share damage with the Pit Fiend whenever he attacked her, which was really, really nice. That was a pretty cool feature.
Yes.
Um, and then I'm just going to talk about Terry a little bit because he didn't have a good battle at all.
He is the lowest level of the party at the moment.
Yeah,
Oh
but
my,
go
yeah.
ahead.
And he was just like, rah, and just ran on in there. And I'm like, I don't know whether to cheer for you or like be completely freaked out right now that you're just running headfirst into a ginormous pit beam through a wall of fire. Um, it was impressive, obviously a little
Reckless.
cocky, reckless, that's a good word. And he definitely paid for it in the end, but it's, again, that's very Terry-like. He played his character well.
Yeah, he gets into melee with the Pit Fiend, and the Pit Fiend's thrown up a wall of fire, so that's getting a little bit complicated for some of the members of Vox Machina who need to attack him that are not in melee. And he actually calls Dodie over to help him, and Dodie charges through the wall of fire and immediately falls on his face because he's lost all of his hit points and starts to, burn up.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, you gotta
boy.
take better care of your toys, man.
Yep.
It's rough.
Yeah, go on ahead. Were you going to say something?
No.
Oh, okay. So Terry continues to try and attack the Pit Fiend, but after a round of the Pit Fiend actually taking his full turn of attacks on Terry, Terry picks up the book beside Dodie, and just curls up in a ball and casts Sanctuary on himself, and he eventually falls unconscious after more attacks, but's eventually revivified by Vax after the battle.
Darn. As I said, and it still stands, Tyrion is one of those characters that I'm hoping for his death. But that's because he is a character.
Wow, Akiva.
Well, he's a
Come on.
character I love to hate.
Oh my gosh, does it mean you want to kill him? So
I want
evil.
Scanlan back.
So evil.
I
I didn't
am.
even
I
think.
know.
I wonder if Terry actually died, would Sam bring Scanlan back? I don't know. Or would he just re-roll something else?
We don't know.
I don't know. Be
I don't think
interesting,
he
but
would.
I like this different kind of dynamic that Terry is bringing to the group, and I don't see it being long-lived. Definitely not. I don't want to see the poor guy get killed. I would like to see him maybe grow as a character a little bit and see if maybe this changes him. I would be a bit disappointed if he's still this cocky and self-important at the end of his stint with Vox Machina. I would love to see an arc where he kind of becomes more compassionate and understanding and grows. That requires him to stick around a bit, Akiva. I'm sorry.
I know. Oh well.
So because they leveled up, we now have Percy with 2 action surges, and Grog also got his. He leveled up in Fighter.
Yay!
So at one point, Grog does over 100 points of damage because he used his action surge on the Pit Fiend.
Nice.
That was a good combo. Good combo.
And there are actually a couple of bearded devils, 2 of them, and a bone devil that are in the room when they're battling. And Grog kills one of them, one of the bearded devils, and then Percy takes out the bone devil, which had been damaged earlier by Vax, and then the bearded devil with the remainder of his round, and just pops them both off, which earned him a nice comment from Vex afterward. She says, "Nice shooting, stud," and gives him a kiss, and it was a cute moment.
Aww.
Then Keyleth, who's actually in the same room after climbing through the window, she and Tova are actually pinned by the Pit Fiend, and she ends up taking a lot of damage, but turns into a fire giant, of all things, and pile drives the Pit Fiend into the ground.
Nice.
It was so epic. It was just like, because Matt had that whole comment of he is attacking you because he sees you as this weak, druid. And as someone who, I know he didn't say a weak female druid, that probably didn't even come in, gender didn't even come into the play of it. But I'm definitely one of these people who's like, constantly underestimated because of looking like, the way you look. And I love that she got that opportunity to just be like, okay, you got me pinned, you think I'm weak, you're attacking me. Guess what? I'm going to turn into this massive freaking fire, creation and just pile drive you into the ground. Didn't see that coming, did ya? I loved it.
It's me on a daily basis. Like, in that moment, I related to Keyleth so much because I will pick fights with other guys who try to put me down because I'm a female, or they see that they have an upper hand. I will pull out my black belt training and I will kick their metaphorical butts.
And physical.
Yeah,
but
it was good.
That's one thing I never understood, because I mean, I will grant you that, yes, there are physical differences between the way males can fight and the way females can fight.
Yes.
But that does not mean that one is necessarily weaker than the other.
Yes. Yeah, it's different. It's a different kind of strength. Yeah.
So, because, I mean, you mentioned you've got a black belt, Jess. It's...
Yeah.
I mean, I being in the Army, I've gone through combat. I've got hand-to-hand training, and I take every fight as a life or death situation, so I never fight cleanly. But if I'm going up against somebody who is better trained than me, they're probably going to win.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's just the point of knowing who you're going to do well against and who you're not. But if you're just basing looks and prejudices off of that, you're going to be in for a surprise sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then, as Keyleth the pile drives the Spit Fiend, Tova actually gets the "how do you want to do this?" and
Nice.
tears into this Pit Fiend, standing over him, spitting on his body, and saying, "How do you like me now, asshole?"
Nice.
It was perfectly fitting, and once again proving that guests on Vox Machina seem to have a way of finishing these enemies, which is good because usually they're connected to them in some way. And I feel like Tova's personal connection with this Pit Fiend that's been keeping her prisoner and torturing her, I really liked that she got the final blow.
Yep.
So I made a note that it was just within 5 rounds that they killed this Pit Fiend. I don't know if that's like an average or anything, but I found that impressive because going into this, when I was watching live, I did not think they were going to make it out of this alive. I did not think that, because Pike was not there, I didn't think they were going to do well, but they ended up surprising me and taking it out fairly quickly.
They did do really well, considering that they had the wall of fire that completely obscured their vision for a number of rounds, so they couldn't actually even see their target. And then they also had a number of traps in the room. I remember at one point, Vax almost fell down into a pit of molten metal, I think it was. molten iron or something, and I
I
would
think
have
it was molten blood, but Travis made the comment that it was molten iron.
iron. And so that would have been interesting to see because fire damage and anything that hot is a lot of damage. Usually that's a lot of dice involved when a DM gets to roll that ongoing damage. So if he was trapped down there, if he couldn't get out in some way, he did have his wings, so he probably could have, but that would have been nasty. So there was a lot of different things in play, and they did really well. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
And, you know, the last time they fought a pit fiend, they were quite a few levels lower, so.
That's true. Ah, PJ said, really? Only 5 rounds? Sheesh, felt longer. Me too, PJ. I didn't think that was 5 rounds. I felt like that battle went for a long time.
Yep.
But that's what happens when you have so many players, I guess.
Yeah. Um, so, what is this about Tova?
Oh, what did I say?
No, I'm
Uh,
moving forward with the.
oh, okay. Um, oh, Tova actually reveals why she's here, and that one of her friends had actually made a contract with a devil, and they came to get him out of it. But all of her party members, except two, were killed, and she had been in the same cell with them, but was purchased by Udagosh and brought to his stronghold to be corrupted, and she's rearing to go find them.
Yeah, so apparently her two friends are being held somewhere in the prison beneath this, which not exactly with Hodis, but in that same prison somewhere, which pretty much could have been anywhere. She's definitely got a bit of a search on her hands. But it was a nice time to then make her want to even probably continue with Vox Machina on their mission.
So. That's going to be a real interesting aside when I go to actually watch the episode.
Uh,
Yeah. Um, Go ahead.
oh no, as in
Oh.
like you can continue.
Oh, okay. So I didn't hear the complete word. So then we get a whole bunch of a whole array of devils, 12 of them, so that swarm into the chamber, because all of this commotion has gone down and somebody has probably been alerted. And they ask Vox Machina if they resist or surrender. Vox Machina, wanting to get into the prison, say they surrender, and everybody is chained. Uh, Tyrion was trying to stay and fix Dodie, but eventually they chain him up too. And Keyleth also attempts to fool the other devils by turning into a bone devil, but they see right through the lie. She didn't roll very well, and she's chained up as much as Grog was. Matt said that they get the full Hannibal Lecter treatment.
Oh boy.
Yes. At the end of the day, turning into one does not mean that you can speak like one or even know their language. So her disguise fell apart pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I was a bit concerned because Tarry was saying under his breath to some of the other members that he's not going to leave Dodie. He said, I'm not leaving him. And I expected a bit more of a resistance. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a scuffle. He's going to like stand his ground. But when they actually came out to him to chain him up, he made no attempt to resist. So I don't know. I like think John said a little bit before. He said he wonders how much Tyrion truly cares for Dodie and how much Dodie's simply a cipher in which he projects his love for himself. Which I thought was an interesting, as someone who loves like the way people think and the way people act, I think that's a really interesting insight into, yeah, possibly Dodie was simply just a reflection of his own self-love and self-worth, and in that moment, realized that what was more important to him was probably not Dodie, but himself. But I was
Yeah.
expecting a bit more of a resistance. Yeah.
I mean, in the end, Dodie can be replaced. Dodie is a construct.
Don't say that, Akiva.
Um, Kiwan is saying that Matt said they overpowered him.
Oh, definitely. Like there was definitely no option for him other than to surrender. That was obvious. I just felt like that he might have at least attempted or shown some kind of attempt at resisting. When you have someone that you love who's in danger or hurting or whatever, no matter what the situation is around you, you usually make some attempt, right? Even if it's
Yeah.
pointless,
Oh yeah.
to protect them.
I
So
am
that's what I was
very familiar with that one.
expecting. Yeah, so that's what I was expecting to see, which I didn't see. So maybe John's onto something there. So
Maybe.
we'll
We'll find
have to
out.
see. I did notice that someone said that you can revivify. Now, I don't know a lot about the Artificer class, I will admit. I have read through it a couple of times because I've had a few players show interest in it. But apparently you can revivify your construct, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But
It
maybe if somebody knows a bit more about it.
it's not a true revivify.
Right.
It's the mechanical equivalent to a revivify, but it basically reanimating what has essentially been scrapped.
I see. So I wonder, uh, did Sam simply not know that he could do that, or was it not available to him
I don't think
for some
he would have had
reason?
the time.
Yeah, there was no time to do any of that. They were on them pretty quickly. They didn't have time to do very much when it.
I
Not to
suppose so.
not to mention being surrounded by the devils, they probably would have seen that as he's resisting. Take him down.
Perhaps, yeah.
So
So Dodie is left behind, and as they're being pulled through the ceiling from devil to devil, they see Dodie being torn apart. So no hope of revivifying him there.
Nope.
And the party is sentenced to moral reassignment for eternity as they are dragged through the streets and heckled and beaten upon as they're being led to the prison. Vex looks around and is able to see Ipkesh in the crowd. And he gives her a knowing smile and puts his finger to his lips before he disappears. So they get confirmation that they've done their job, and he intends to hold up the rest of his contract.
good, good. It's good to see an honest devil.
They like their contracts.
Yep.
It can be argued, though, that since Dodie was technically a part of their equipment, there's been a breach in contract.
Uh,
Oh gosh, that's technical.
so
I
here's
don't know if that would
here's no, it wouldn't, because here's the technical aspect of it. They had to complete their end of the bargain before getting the safe passage and their equipment and all of that.
Yeah, that's true. Never mind.
Dodie was destroyed before the end of the battle.
Never mind.
Yeah, that too. I mean, you could also argue, really, that Tova was the one who gave the killing blow. So technically, Vox Machina didn't technically kill.
On that end of things, Vox Machina used Tova as a weapon.
Exactly. So there's just so many different. It's like this is when you start getting into lawyering. And
Yes.
like that's so much fun as a DM, like with contracts and stuff, and players like throwing these things at you. It's like, okay. Because you could see in the game, like Matt obviously was all on board with this massive 2-page contract. Talaton, who's like an old school D&D player, was like, "Yeah, get this contract to me," and then the other players were like, "Oh my god," like they were not on board. But that's the fun part, is when you're like trying to be really technical and almost lawyering your way through.
Yeah, see, I would be one of those players that, you know, a DM would pull out a contract like that, and I would be like, and my character pulls out glass frames. There's no actual, glass to them, but he puts them on to make it look like he's really smart. And as he starts going over the the contract,
That's what he's doing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, anywho,
So they reach the
Uh,
prison.
yes. They get put into a cell. All their equipment is still on them. Their armor, not their weapons, those have been taken. But a chain devil through the bars begins to remove their armor using the chains warping them and controlling them to reach underneath their armor and unclip it and remove Grog's Titan Stone Knuckles. But before he has a chance to get anywhere with that, another devil interrupts the chain devil and tells him it's needed elsewhere. And this ally waits until the chain devil is gone before putting all of Vox Machina's weapons right in front of the door and telling them the exact directions where they can go find Hodis before bolting.
Yes.
nice.
Now this is something that I will throw in there. You can do as an option as a DM is if you have a moment like this, and I hope none of my players are listening because I'm about to do this to one of my groups. Get them to put their pens down and tell them that they cannot take notes. If you're going to give them directions, left, right, turn, keep going straight, and then at the next turn do this. Don't let them write it down because they're not going to be in a position to write that down. They're chained up, right? They're chained up. They have to remember it. And maybe, if you want to be nice, you can get them to do intelligence rolls. It kind of
Yep.
leaves it up to the dice a little bit and maybe give them clues along the way to help them out because you don't want it to be frustrating. But you could see Vox Machina was like writing down, and Laura got it all written down as to how they needed to go. And
Now, the way I would have done it was I would have said, okay, he's about to give you guys directions. I want you all to roll intelligence rolls. And then, depending on their intelligence rolls, whether or not they were allowed to write it down. Oh, you got a 10? You're not allowed to pick up your pencil. Put it down.
that's another way.
Yeah.
So there's tons of ways that you can play that kind of directional thing. Matt did it perfectly fine. Usually DMs allow their players to write stuff like that down and keep going.
Yeah.
That's fine. But just some other options if you're listening and want to try some different things.
Yep. So. And what is this about them getting changed into bats? I've seen that a little bit on Twitters, or on Twitters, in tweets on Twitter.
So they break free and they decide, well, we can't just go running through the halls like ourselves. We're going to get noticed and we're going to get stopped. So we might as well try and disguise ourselves and turn into they were discussing like rats or any other kinds of creatures, but they decide eventually to go with bats. And they still get noticed, but it probably was going to be worse if they ran through the halls just as themselves.
Yeah, I could see that.
So Keyleth changes them all into bats, and they begin going through the halls. But the devils do get suspicious, and an alarm goes up that prisoners have escaped. They end up getting into a squabble with a bone devil again, and a couple of other devils, and Keyleth ends up falling unconscious because a bone devil has started to attack her, and he strikes her again as she falls unconscious, and she takes 2 death saving throws, automatically failed, and it's her turn next.
Whew.
Keyleth's their only way out.
Yeah,
She dies.
they're
That's
stuck.
that. No go, man. You've got an entire prison full of devils descending upon you. That's a campaign ender.
Yep.
Yeah, you could see that Matt, like, as he realized that, it's like he hadn't thought about that before. And then those two death saving throws, and then it just dawns on him, and the look of fear that came across his face was, I mean, for anyone who thinks that a DM is out to kill their players, that look alone really proves it. Mostly, no. You put a
Yeah.
lot of work into your campaigns, you don't want your players to TPK.
It, as we are saying every so often here, DMs are the players, or are the biggest fans of the players.
100%. I suppose that this brings us to the point of what you were saying earlier, Jess, that maybe Keela should have taken an automatic fail because she was taking damage from the floor.
Yep. No, she didn't
Interesting.
fall. She didn't fall. She was already standing. They had dropped their forms at this point. But
Yeah.
she would have fallen onto the ground and immediately taken damage from the ground being so hot.
Yes. Yeah,
Yep.
sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
But again, Matt is a merciful DM.
Merciful.
Yeah, it could have been merciful. It could have been because at this point it was pretty late at night, and I could see that Matt was fatiguing a little bit. Some of the things that he was kind of missing and not remembering. So I
I'm
think he was
sure
getting a
that
bit
woke him up,
tired.
though.
Yeah, yeah, I think that kind of shocked him. And so it could have been fatigue. It could have been that he was in shock and didn't realize. Like, when you're like, oh my God, and little things like that kind of fall through the cracks. Felice says also it's his fiance's character. No, don't start that.
Yeah, no.
I
That should never be a factor.
I
And
don't.
I'm not saying it isn't ever a factor. I'm saying it shouldn't be a factor. If you want the game to go smoothly, go fun, and allow the players to actually play, then don't show favoritism that way.
Yeah, definitely not. If not,
And
I feel like Matt is rougher on Marisha
yeah,
sometimes.
there are times he really is.
Yeah, there are times when he really pushes things. So John says that the ground wasn't causing damage, only the walls. So that's interesting.
No, it was
No,
everything.
it was everything.
Okay.
Because if you remember, back in the inn in episode 92, they actually grilled some boar by throwing it on the ground.
Yeah. So, I was wondering if it was maybe different in the prison. Because, I mean, different places can be different, but I would think that if the walls were hot and painful to touch, that the floors would have been the same.
I mean, seriously, it's a prison. You don't want to make your prisoners comfortable.
Comfortable. Yeah,
Yeah.
so true.
So the floor is probably hotter in the prisons than it is in the streets. And the only possible place to get any sort of comfort would be on the rack / bed that they have in there.
So yeah, it sounds like
Now,
is true, Jess.
one thing that hearing about it surprises me is the fact that Keyleth didn't take any healing.
Oh yeah, that was mentioned.
Yeah.
The party was really wondering why, because a couple of other people had healed during that time, between them getting taken as prisoner to them after they defeated the pit fiend. They had paused to heal themselves, but Keyleth didn't. And they were really mad at themselves that they didn't heal her.
Yeah.
Because she is their only way out, and that was a 45% chance of her failing that death saving throw.
Yep. John O'Brien in the chat is asking, but they were on the floor of their room in the inn and they didn't get hurt, did they? They were standing. So much of that heat was being absorbed by their shoes.
Yeah.
So you know, you can stand in hot coals all day long if you have the shoes for it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah.
laying in hot coals is a whole different matter.
He mentions her armor and her mantle and things like that, perhaps absorbing the heat. I mean, definitely, you could argue either way. I honestly think that this was simply a mistake by Matt. I don't know if he said something official anywhere, because usually he is quite quick to clarify those things, and he's usually quite honest when he's like, yeah, I mistaked that. So I'll have to have a look. I haven't really had a very good look at Reddit this weekend to see if he said anything. He's been very active on Reddit recently.
Yeah.
But I will say that even with the mantle and the armor, your head would have hit the ground, your hands would have hit the ground. So I'm sure there would have been some sort of exposed skin.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like there's arguments either way that you can definitely lawyer that she wouldn't have taken any damage, and you can lawyer the other way as well. But
Yeah, no, she would have taken some damage because
yeah,
even with the mantle, it says um,
it's resistant.
it's resistant, not nullifies.
Yeah.
So
But that's fine. I mean that's happened a couple of times now with characters where they probably should have taken an automatic death fail and they haven't, things like that. But that's just we're all human and those mistakes are made.
so
Yep.
okay.
So she gets healed after they dispatch of those their pursuers and those devils, and they continue off towards Hodis's cell. They reach it, but it's guarded by a chain golem,
Oh boy.
and it makes the entire area difficult terrain.
Yeah, it's like the Matrix. Like they were walking through this wrapping like Matrix style chain house room thing. It was awesome.
Really surprising. I did not expect it to be guarded, and which made me actually agree with your theory about how Hodis is actually higher up.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. With the guarding of it, that kind of confirms or
Well,
supports that. That's awesome.
well, yeah, but I mean, if he broke a contract that got
Mm.
him back to the surface early, then he's being guarded because he's a prisoner, not because he's higher
Yeah,
up. So
I suppose. I mean, I feel like if he was demoted in some way, I don't know. The cell room and the cells, from the way that Matt was describing it, seemed like a very elite section of the prison.
It did.
Um, yeah, so it's
well,
just
okay,
it's interesting.
you're trying to keep a devil in a prison that's run by devils. Of course, it's going to be in an elite section. They had devils usually have more firepower at their disposal than mortals do. So
It's true. So we get a fight with the chain golem, and they have Tova eventually finding the door and then Grog breaking through and being the one to smash the Rakshasa in one hit.
nice.
Yep. Then we get the party linking together as they're battling through this difficult terrain. They're talking to each other, trying to get to Keyleth and chain up their arms so that they can all teleport out. But Tova actually stays behind to help her friends. She doesn't want to leave just quite yet, and Vax, as in order to help her out, gives her the Ring of Invisibility right before Keyleth casts the spell, and the party vanishes from the Nine Hells, and that is the end of our episode.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah, so she's totally going to Lord of the Rings it throughout that prison. That's going to go well for her, I'm sure. Um, she's going to be fine. She's fine. Everything's
Totally
fine.
fine.
Totally fine.
So this episode has already been going on, or this episode of Gilmore's Glorious Gossip, so it has been going on for almost 3 hours now.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
as much as we love being back and talking with you guys, it is getting pretty late. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. We're not going to go through the wrap-up thoughts, and obviously, for times like these, we intentionally do not do DM's corners. So I am sorry if you guys were looking forward to that portion of it. But we thank you all for showing up. Thank you for sticking with us during our downtime, and thank you so much for all the support that I got through Twitter. You guys continuously blow my minds, and I cannot thank you all enough. So thank you guys for being so amazing. If you guys enjoyed the episode, click that like button and subscribe to catch us each and every week. Send in any of your D&D questions to us using the hashtag DM's Corner or emailing us directly with DM's Corner in the subject. If you want to submit art, please contact us either our official email, Gilmore's Glorious Gossip at gmail.com, or using our official Twitter at Gilmore_gossip, or contacting us on Reddit, Gilmore-gossip.tumblr.com, or contacting us directly via Twitter. I'm at Akiva David, AKIVADAPHYDD.
And I'm at Castile Games, CASSTI3L Games on Twitter.
And I am at Jessie LR Leaf on Twitter.
We hope you enjoyed the show, and until next week, kick back, relax, and enjoy your games.
May all your hits be crits and have a nat 20 day, guys.
I'll see you on the internet. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye, guys.